Welcome to the Imperfect Dads Podcast. This is your host, Devin. We believe dads care deeply about their family and kids, but they don't always have a space to discuss what their life looks like. Our podcast is a space for dads to discuss the ups and downs of fatherhood and how they feel like they're holding it together or how they're not. Thank you for joining us for this episode. This podcast is part of the Never a Face Network. Make sure to follow them on Instagram or go to the website neverafacenetwork.com. Before we start this episode, I want to give a heads up about the content in it. This episode's guest is Rob Reider, the executive director of the Sad Dads Club. The Sad Dads Club helps bereaved fathers navigate life after loss of a child. This episode discusses child loss and the darkness that comes with it. The Sad Dads Club exists to create community for dads after such a huge loss in their life. Rob and I talked about his love of music and his time in a band and the do-it-yourself punk scene he grew up in, his experience with having a stillbirth, going through IVF, and having a second kid. Rob shared stories of how this group gives men a lifeline when they're surrounded by so much darkness. I really respect and believe in what Rob is doing. He's leaning into meeting men where they are when they feel isolated and making sure they feel seen and have a space to discuss their lives. Rob has hard conversations with men all the time about their darkest moments, and the love and light he carries is really inspiring. If you or a dad you know has experienced child loss at any point in their fatherhood journey, please let them know about the Sad Dads Club. You can go to their website at saddadsclub.org or follow them on Instagram at sad.dads.club. And also just like one more thing.
Dad, just start the episode.
Oh, my bad.
So I remember being like 23, 24 and like not being able to breathe for like a week or something like that, coughing a ton and going to urgent care and found out I had a sinus infection, bronchitis, and my allergies were activated. And I was like, oh, I thought my body was just having a hard time. I didn't realize it was really having a hard time.
Like medically having a
Like
hard
medically. Like
diagnostically having a hard time. I don't know if
you're
that's the right
you're
word.
gonna swab some tissue inside my face and be like, yeah, see how sick you are, level of sick.
Gosh, yeah, that's the trifecta of terrible right there.
It is. But dude, it does suck. Like, I know we messaged about this or emailed. Like, I love being 38 and getting older and being like, my kid has a cold. No, I've got the cold. And you're like, when will this go away? Maybe in 2 weeks. Hopefully within 2 weeks, it's better. And you just accept this is what your body does now. It doesn't get over stuff as quick as it used to. And sure, to have some more zinc, have some more orange juice, do all the whatever you can to help it out. But it's kind of reality now.
Yeah, it's a very real new chapter of what our body is capable of in terms of bouncing back or not. And then that carousel of sickness with having a little child who is then being exposed for the first time to all these things. And we'll get probably like 3/4 of them get passed on to us. So it's just, especially around the seasonal shifts into the colder days, we're in Maine, so we experience very intense, well, we experience all 4 seasons. I was going to say very intensely. Some are more extreme than others, but we certainly are in a four season state up here. And so every time it gets a little colder, it's just like, oh, here it goes. He's going to go back to school and he's going to get sick. And we might also, high likelihood that we will get it as well.
Pretty much. We're out in Denver suburbs and like sometimes you have all 4 seasons in one day. Like
yeah,
right
Denver
now
is wild.
It is like right now it's cloudy and overcast and like 45 or something like that. This afternoon it might be sunny and 62. So how do you dress for this?
I have never been somewhere that is as extreme in the minute weather as that region. Yeah. And I remember back in the days when I was touring, it was always like, you never know what you're going to get at what time of year when you're out in Colorado. And some of those drives used to be the most treacherous, nerve-wracking ones because they were mountainous. And again, it could change in an instant what you're driving through and or towards.
Yes. Or like, cause I've never lived somewhere where like, I'm originally from Indiana and then lived in Nashville for 18 years and moved out here last year. And I've never lived somewhere where like you're driving on the highway and there's just areas where it's like, yo, this is where you put on your your treads on your tires. This is where you put on the chains. And then they have like the barriers just to be like, to shut the highway down. To be like, you're not driving anymore. If you drive this way, we can't guarantee your safety. Go find a hotel in the town you just came from. And you're like, and I'm like, I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know like the city state would just look up and be like, this is dangerous. You got to stop. Shutting it down. Stop it.
Yeah, that's next level, either looking out for their citizens or controlling their citizens, maybe a combination of the two. But that always the most treacherous drives were when we were getting to that region. I think Colorado is one of the most beautiful landlocked states in the nation. And I also have just experienced such incredible terror. I was in a car accident, actually, when I went to college in Maine, where I now live. Okay. And we were heading college was in Brunswick, Maine. And so the quote unquote big city of Portland, Maine was about 30, 35 minutes south. And so you got to get on the highway. And it was totally clear February evening. And we head down. We were going to see, I have to remember this, Bill. Come on. I hope I'm not conflating, but I think it was Seosin.
Oh, yeah.
As Tall as Lions, Cartel, and The Receiving End of Sirens, which not all of those really necessarily sound like they would have been on the bill, but I'm at least like 3/4 right on whatever that bill was.
Pretty sure Seosin and As Tall as Lions are playing shows together like currently. So like if they like, because they're doing all like the reunion, you know, all that stuff. So your thought of that being the lineup, probably not incorrect.
I'm sure that the all-knowing internet could clarify for me what exactly that lineup was, but we were heading south. It was completely clear. There were 3 of us. I was in the back seat. We borrowed a friend's Ford Explorer, and it started just dumping snow out of nowhere. And I guess we're going a bit too fast. Started fishtailing, and the guy driving kind of panicked and was like, jerking the wheel.
Overcorrected.
Started spinning, and then we hit the median. We flipped over 2.5 times. All good. Like all of us were totally fine. But after that, driving in inclement weather has just been like a source of triggering PTSD for me, because I thought in that moment of the car was flipping, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die in a car accident at 20 years old.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like I had these very vivid flashes, like these scenes of like a hospital room, a funeral, and my parents and my sister. And then I was also thinking like, God, like there's so much more I want to do and be. And so it's still a source of anxiety and stress for me. I obsessively check the weather when I have to travel in the winter, and I try to avoid it actively. But that is where it all came from. Didn't make it to the show that evening.
I was going to say also, like, if I'm going to die in a car crash, can it at least be after the show? Like, can I at least see the band play? Like, you know, like that's the cruelty of reality right there.
And this was like Anthony Green era Samson. Like this was translating the name. This was when they were, I mean, this must have been 2003 or maybe early 04.
Yeah,
again,
like 04,
and somebody
05,
out there fact checking could be like, you're wrong. He wasn't in the band at that point. But I know that Seosin was playing, and I'm pretty sure Receiving End of Sirens were, and they were based out of somewhere in Massachusetts. So
I'm going to do my best to get Anthony Green to come on the podcast and ask him just for that question.
I should have brought this up when I ran into him. He was touring with LS Dunes, and during the last Sad Dads Club retreat, which was, I mean, was this the last? It must have been. It was in the spring when we had a Sad Dads Club retreat. I had another dad who was with me. We were just getting stuff ready. And he was just he was waiting outside a store. He had his coffee. He was texting. And I was like, Anthony Green, oh my goodness. Like, I'm not going to be overbearing here. I'm going to be very quick. Like, just thank you so much for sharing all your hard work and for like just being such a prolific artist and creator. And I've been following you for years and years. And he's like, wow, thank you so much, man. That was really nice. And then I went into this whole thing because my friend didn't really know who he was. I was like, this is one of the most electric and entertaining and passionate frontmen I've ever seen. He's like, my gosh, like, thank you. Like, this is so kind of you to say. And then we got into what Sad Dads Club was, and he became very interested in just ways that he could help promote. Just he has a large network, and age of his fan base is getting older, as we all do if we're lucky. And so being a nonprofit that supports fathers who have lost children, and him being a father of 4, I believe, you know, it was just it resonated with him. And he has since been very, very gracious in doing what he can to help us kind of spread the word. So if I can ever squeeze it in there, I'll be like, hey, there's this awesome podcast, and they interview a lot of far more accomplished musicians than I am. I ended up on it somehow, some way, but I'll certainly fill it in. When I saw that you interviewed Ben from Lucero, I was like, whoa, this would be a cool podcast to
thank you.
be a part of. And I love Lucero. I have for years and years. And I met Ben at an airport in Nice, France. He was coming back from whatever the film festival was, his brother.
Cannes, probably.
Yes, that had to have been it. And his brother had the movie Loving, I believe, which he had done music for. And my wife and I were coming back from our honeymoon that was 2.5 years after we got married. And I was just like, whoa. And I'll never wear sweatpants to the airport again, because I looked so remarkably uncool meeting him. And he just looked as effortlessly cool as he always does. And so I was like, I need to like be prepared to run into people. Forget traveling in comfort. I need to not look like a schlub if I'm going to meet somebody I admire and who's super cool.
That's right. Also, I'm glad that you've had 2 experiences of meeting musicians that you admire, and both were positive experiences.
So positive.
Because everyone can have, it's not uncommon for people. Sort of like, I met this person, don't know what was in the air that day, but I think of them differently. And like, Ben Nichols was one of like the nicest, sweetest guys ever. And just genuine, just very genuine. Or he probably
Yeah.
didn't even notice you wearing sweatpants. Or he was probably jealous that you were wearing sweatpants. He's like that type of person.
I was like, please let me sit next to him on the plane. Please let me sit next to him on this, like, intercontinental
Yeah,
flight.
yeah. Yeah.
I would have ruined it for him, but I would have been talking his ear off. I'm sure he's exhausted, but very nice guy, as you
Very
said.
nice guy.
So
Yep.
the experience you had with him was the same when on the show.
It was. Did you used to play music? Like, were you in a touring band or something like
I
that for a bit?
was. Yes. So in the era of, gosh, what do you call it? Just like that power pop whole thing with Fueled by Ramen and Fall Out Boy,
Yes.
Panic at the Disco. I was in a band called the Friday Night Boys, who was signed to Fueled by Ramen, which is part of Atlantic at the time. And this was a time where, we were on a big label, but we were not a big band, but we had a lot of MySpace traction. And it was this band comprised of guys who all grew up in the same music scene, DIY scene in the right outside DC, playing music in bands, touring together, filling in for each other's bands, and just all familiar with one another. Then the guitarist of a band called Aberdeen, which we were really close friends with, started something called the Friday Night Boys. And it just had this meteoric rise on MySpace back when that was a launch pad for bands. And we had all, been grinding it out in our own bands, doing DIY touring. And I had toured 23 states DIY, like booking all the tours myself. And that was, what we knew. But then this band all of a sudden was getting all this attention and attracted management and then label attention. And we're like, let's just go for it. But fun experience. We all are so passionate about music, and all four of us are still friends, which is the most important. And got to do a lot of touring and have some fun together, and amicably disbanded, and still are in touch now. So that's good.
That's awesome. I mean, I haven't spent much time in DC, but I do know like the DIY punk scene with Minor Threat, Fugazi, all the Ian MacKaye stuff is its own like universe and world. So I can only imagine what it was like coming of age, playing music in that scene, in that atmosphere. I bet it was awesome.
It was great. And it just set the scene with having that whole Discord, revolution. Was just like anything is possible. And you just do it. If you want to do something, do it. And you're doing
go for it.
And that's all it takes. And I think that ethos and that mentality never went anywhere. I was not, old enough to really participate in the Discord scene, but certainly heard all the stories and knew of all the bands and just saw exactly the imprint they were able to have. And there was this incredibly active and vibrant ska punk scene. And I was very into ska punk at the time. I still am. And there was, I had this small record label that I did myself that was when I was living in Boston. So like around 2011 to 2016. And it's kind of pivoted into more of a digital archive because I have all of my physical music. I held on to everything, every band's EP, demo, like whatever it was. And so I've started, with the artist permission being like, hey, this isn't anywhere online. And people are probably looking for it because in this like late 90s, early 2000s, in this local scene, this ska and punk scene. And I ended up putting together a compilation of like 23 bands from that era. And I was in a ska punk band called Look Out Below, and made a lifelong friend who became a very close touring musician with me, who was in a band called Plan 9 USA. And like, he was the first friend to visit me after my daughter died. And we were talking just about how we had met and how our bands had played together and how much better his band was than my band, but all these other like really awesome bands that were around. And he's like, man, Robbie, you have held on to all this stuff. You should put a compilation together showcasing all these bands from that era. I bet that would be like really cool. And that was a hugely helpful project for me, just in my grief, to not only revisit an era of my life that was so carefree and happy, but just have something to focus on, not distract me from it. It wasn't that way at all. It was just having something concrete to do. And I'm very tenacious, and I can't start something and not finish it. I have to finish it. And so, it took over a year, but ended up getting it out, and it'll live online forever because the internet will far outlive all of us, and it's for free download. And it's just all these bands from that era that, a small pocket of people remember. But if anybody's ever looking for something, I want them to be able to access it. It's such a unique snapshot in time during, again, something that was very much influenced by, I'd say, the whole Discord scene, and people just knowing that, hey, all you have to do is just want to do something, find a place for shows, start a band, and just do it.
Because I don't think I don't go to like younger band shows anymore. I'm not that good at that. But like growing up, it was all basement shows. Like it'd be like, hey, here's a VFW hall, here's a church basement, and then we're gonna have 10 bands play, and it's gonna be $5. Like that, I remember that was like the Midwest scene I grew up in, also, of like losing my hearing in a completely cement brick room and every amp was way too loud. And I'm like, does that energy still exist today? Because similar, like I already want to listen to that compilation because I remember that energy, that reality so much that I'm like, I want to tap back into that because it was so inspiring and it like lifted up, like it made you feel like so many things were possible whenever you're a part of that scene.
Absolutely. And I got for a period, I've been worse about getting out to shows lately, but in Maine, there is a very, very interesting, vibrant, and passionate hardcore punk scene.
Yeah.
And it's the one place as I walked into, these guys who were in a band and who had various side project bands. There's this kind of collective of bands under the name like SVU, which is Saco Valley United. Saco Valley is a county in Maine.
Okay.
And these bands and these guys have just all kind of taken on these different responsibilities. Some of the guys book the shows, some of the guys make the merch, some of the guys do the logos, some of the guys have a label that put out the tapes.
Yeah.
And they just found this room that wasn't being used. It's above a restaurant and like this, pool hall, and started throwing these all ages shows there. And it, to me, and what I told them was like, whoa, I feel like everything around me is nearly unrecognizable from the time I was younger to now being almost 41 years old. Everything looks different. Cars look different.
Mm-hmm.
Computers look different. Just everything, with the exception, I guess, of style, going back now towards like Jinkos and baggy stuff.
Yeah.
Really cool to see, and would not have expected that. But
Nope.
is where it is exactly the same as I remember it. This is where people are setting up merch tables. This is where people are loading in and helping like bring a PA in.
Yeah.
This is where people are chipping in and doing their part to make sure that something that is an all ages accessible experience happens.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see. And I don't think it'll ever go out of style, and not that it's about style. I just don't think there will ever be an exhaustion or any sort of period in time where kids, and some of them are closer to age than me, just people will stop doing something that brings music and inspires younger people to start making music. Because I think DIY is just such an effective use of time and community resources, and people get really fulfilled when they're a part of making something happen that wouldn't otherwise exist, which is a good segue into Sad Dads Club.
Yeah,
which
please
is
do. Yeah.
exactly what Sad Dads Club is. And it's so informed by, two things. Like, I grew up in an alternative underground music scene and saw what community could make happen if people band together and were passionate. And then also I went to Quaker school growing up. And so community is at the focus and the center of everything. It's really, everybody is equal within Quakerism, which is technically, or I shouldn't say technically, it is a religion, part of Christianity, but it doesn't really get into all of the nuances that sometimes will detract people from organized religion. But it really is just about not believing in war. Everybody is equal, and that within community, anything is possible and can happen. And that's really all you need. And so Sad Dads Club is very much a DIY grief group. Like, there was no support out there for fathers who had lost children. And I'm one of 3 co-founders. The other 2 are also local in Maine, one of whom went to Bowdoin College with me and was my best friend from college. And he lost his daughter 11 months before I lost Lila. And then 7 months after that, we were introduced to somebody else who was in the area through a mutual college friend who also lost his daughter. So within the span of 18 months, all of us had stillborn daughters at full term.
Man.
And we just realized, like, wow, this is so important. This is such a resource for us to have one another to be able to go to, so that we can then return to all the other parts of our life where we're in high demand, like our job, our partners, living children, if we had any. And it dawned on us that there were probably guys out there who didn't have anyone in their community, no loved one who had ever gone through something like pregnancy, child loss. And we should put a call out and see if there are more guys out there who need this support. And we launched on March 1st of 2022, and we became a 501c3 nonprofit charitable entity April of the following year of 2023. And it's just been growing so steadily and organically, and it's global at this point. I mean, we have dads in 35 states, 14 different countries, and that's because there are not resources out there that provide grief support for bereaved fathers. And as I mentioned, among the 3 co-founders, we all had stillborn children. And we said from the beginning, we want a space that can support and nurture dads who have experienced loss at any point of the child's
Yeah.
life, but we also can't presume to know the experience of somebody who had a live birth, the child went to the NICU,
Yeah.
never moved home, or somebody who lost a toddler or an
Mhm.
older child or even adult child. But the dads in our community at this point have gone through a myriad of different circumstances under which they lost their child, and at all ages, again,
Yeah.
because this is something that just isn't offered elsewhere and that nobody has bothered to address for societal, generational expectations or reasons of just like men, boys don't cry or suck it
Yeah.
up or grin and bear it, which is just an unrealistic expectation of a human being who's gone through the most profound loss of their life. And so, yeah, it's just been incredible to watch it grow. Friends of mine ask me if I'm sad all the time because this is my full-time job. I'm the
Yeah.
executive director and I'm the one full-time guy at Sad Dads Club. And it's like, no, I mean, yeah, I have to hear some incredibly difficult stories,
Mhm.
but I also see joy and light and life returning to the lives of these dads who walk through our proverbial doors with the expectation that like nothing is going to help me. I am going to exist in darkness and sadness for the rest of my life. I'm
Mm.
here reluctantly because I punched a hole in the wall and my partner's like, you have to do something. Like,
Go
you know,
talk to someone, please.
this is like, this is coming to a head. It's destroying you. But then these guys, they get so close so quickly, and we have a lot of different forums through which we engage both virtually and in person. And in a very short period of time, these men become very close and they start to just change physically. Like we see
Yeah.
them when they come in, and in a very short period of time, because they can engage with one another 24/7 if they want. We have methods in place and different channels where people can be in constant communication so they can get the support they need and want whenever they need or want it. And these dads very quickly just kind of realize that there is more life left to live and that that's also okay. And that they
Yeah.
do not have to force themselves to be in a state of sadness or hopelessness, which some dads want to stay in because that's the feeling they most closely associate with their child after they
Yeah.
lose them, is this profound and deep sadness. But then they engage with all these other dads who are further along in their grief journey, and they hear about these other dads doing things to honor their child or
Yeah.
re-engaging with things. One example is like, there's some runners in our community. I am not one of them, but I like a brisk walk
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
We have some very passionate runners, and one of them was like, I just can't strap up, put my shoes on anymore. Like, I can't do it. I feel like I don't want to, even though I know deep down I do want to. And then a dad chimes in and is like, hey, I had that exact same problem. I'm an avid runner and I couldn't run for almost a year after losing my son. But now, whenever I run, that's the time where I talk to my child. That's where I talk to
Yeah.
my son. And that's just like that light bulb moment. It flips a switch and it totally recontextualizes what this outlet could be for this dad. What getting back into something that once brought him joy could now be
Yeah.
repurposed as a way to connect more deeply with the child who isn't physically here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you saying that like people ask you, like, aren't you sad all the time? To me, the greater sadness would be knowing there are men out there who need to know that to be seen, basically.
Yeah.
And the thought of them not being seen, that makes me sadder. Like, I don't doubt that you hear difficult stories about dark days every single day. But man, the thought of not having that conversation seems so much heavier than the conversation itself. Because, yeah, I'm with you. I think the spaces for men to be able to discuss their reality is pretty limited. The ability for them to feel, I mean, everyone deserves to be able to feel safe, seen, and heard about the things that are going on inside their head, regardless of what the situation is. And I do feel like people who have lost a child, especially, need that space. And I'm grateful that you're trying to create that space in whatever ways you can.
Well, thank you. And you absolutely nailed it. Yeah, of course, sad the circumstances under which they need to find and access and utilize our community and resources, but it's way more sad to imagine a world where they don't have that, where they have
Anything.
to
Yeah.
navigate the alienation of grief is
Hmm.
something we have to just absolutely eliminate because that's where I think it gets really dangerous for people and scary. And that's where it can really truly be hopeless. And we say that the floor drops or, the floor disappears when you lose your child. And we're like that net that's going to catch them so they don't just endlessly fall. And there is so much more we want to do and we are going to do. And it's still, I am continually motivated and inspired to see these dads who think also in everywhere else in their life they go, they don't have people who want to hear about their child who died.
Mm-hmm.
And they then become and feel less connected to that child. And so making sure that we
Yeah.
reiterate that they are always their child's father,
Mm-hmm.
and that child will remain their child. Now we have a space where nobody's curling their toes and waiting for them to get through whatever they're sharing. We have an active audience for every dad who wants to share anything, who is listening to every little bit that they want to share about their child who died. Have an active audience who is now also going to think of that child on their birthday, think of
Mm-hmm.
that child when they see a cardinal or a butterfly or whatever they've let us know that their associated sign with their child is. And so in that way, it not only preserves that child's presence in whatever way we can with them not
Yeah.
being physically here, but it also amplifies it, because every time somebody sees or hears the name Lila,
Mm-hmm.
I hear about it. So there are people, not just, my family, outside of my family, who are thinking about her and who are remembering her. And that is like the most fulfilling and just heartwarming anecdote and experience that I can have in trying to navigate a life where I'm just constantly like wondering who she would be, as she would have turned 8 in
Yeah.
December. And it's like there are other people who think about her, not just me. And that just creates such a greater presence for her that for me is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it really help these dads a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed it seems like you guys are very intentional about, or at least you've posted on socials of like that you don't say first names, you say father of child's name. Seems to
Yeah.
be a very intentional wording and phrasing that you use with your.
Yeah, we had done that just when we were starting to do Zoom sessions more frequently, and it just kind of organically came up where somebody was passing it on. It was like, all right, I'm going to pass it over to Lucas's dad, Will. And it's
Yeah.
just a way to say, and for other, not only are we saying it outside of just the dad being the one to say their child's name, but then the dad is also hearing their child's name. And it's just,
Yeah.
have to think of every way you can when the child isn't physically here to keep
Mm-hmm.
them here. And that
Yeah.
is just like one small way that in our spaces, we're always very intentional about using that child's name as much as we
Yeah.
can, because these are names that the dad loves. And these names were given to the child because they're names they want to say and hear. And so making sure that that doesn't end just because the child's life ended, that their legacy, that their story, that their presence will carry on is super important. And it's something that we really do put at the forefront and try
Yeah.
and be as intentional as we can.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, to me, the reality is like even though your child is not physically present, you still have love for that child, and you're looking for outlets to express that love. And that seems like a great way to speak. Hey, I'm this child's dad, and I love this child so much, even if they're not physically here. So, yeah, I would imagine that'd be a fascinating journey to try to figure out what to do with the love you still have for a child or a person who isn't here anymore, but you still feel the desire to express it and want to express it as many times as you can.
Absolutely. We want to make sure these dads know that they are still a dad to that child. And whether they lost the child, to late term pregnancy loss, like a stillbirth, or
Yeah.
they lost the child to SIDS, or sudden unexplained
Yeah.
death of a child, or a slightly older child. I mean, again, we have dads who have experienced all types of loss at every stage of a child's life. We have some fathers who have lost adult children.
Yeah.
And what binds our group, there's no barrier to connection based on the circumstance under which you lost your child.
Yeah.
It's so much about grief and what grief does to your life in the wake of loss, that
Hmm.
is where dads are connecting more deeply and intimately than anywhere else. And that's kind of what we do whenever new dads reach out. I make sure to articulate that, like, look, we have dads who have experienced every type of loss that you can imagine. And not that the story or the circumstances under which are an important part of the story, but that's not what connects us. That's not
Yeah.
that it's not like, oh, I can only connect with another dad who has had a stillborn child because
Yeah.
our stories are more similar. It's really just I have these complicated family dynamics now, or I have a really different relationship with my career than I had had
Hmm.
pre-loss, or I am, having a ton of trouble being intimate with my partner again
Yeah.
post-loss. And like those are the things that are coming up more and more that dads are connecting so deeply on, and that they need the most help navigating through, because that one moment is traumatic and people develop PTSD as a result. But not having a space to talk about all the complexities that accompany life after loss is where people just get lost in the
Yeah.
shuffle and get completely left behind and don't really know how to make sense of this new world that they live in because
Yeah.
they feel like they're the only ones going through it. Why is my job all of a sudden so hard? Why can I find no
Hmm.
passion in the things that once gave me so much joy? I couldn't pick up a guitar or drumsticks or even listen to music, which has always been like my
Yeah.
source of that's my passion. I love music. I love everything about it. I love physical music. Like that's why I
Yeah.
held on to everything, browsing through records, tapes, CDs, knowing every little detail. And like it brought me nothing. I couldn't pick up drumsticks and feel the
Yeah.
same type of release. It was almost like I thought maybe I lost it forever. And
Hmm.
it was a temporary thing. And I've since reconnected with music in a deeper way than I ever had previously, I would say, in my life, because it has now become in a certain arena of when I create, there's a way that I play that is like intentionally with my daughter in mind.
Yeah.
And
Of course.
it's all instrumental and an ambient type thing,
Yeah.
but it's very much like grief and love, or just like, what am I feeling? What am I and it's my time to be with my daughter. Like I
Yeah.
very much put her front and center when I'm plugging in and I'm going to start noodling around on guitar. It's
Yeah.
like, what am I feeling like, a little sadder? Am I feeling like a really strong connection to
Hmm.
Lila? And so it's just wild. But I think I thought I lost it for a minute. I thought that was just going to be something that was such an important part of my
Yeah.
life before losing her. And now this
Yeah.
thing that I was so excited to share with her, I thought I couldn't, but now I
Yeah.
found a way that I can.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like it makes sense. It seems like your core identity gets shattered. The thing that once brought you joy, it's almost like, what's the point of finding joy in this? Because the loss is such a huge wave that overcomes you. And I would imagine that would leave you feeling even more helpless and lost. Because like you usually have your anchor points. Like I'm going to go play drums. I'm going to feel normal again. And every time you pick up a drumstick, you forget how to do the kick. And you're just like,
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
I do this? It's like that would I play guitar, I play mandolin, all these instruments. And if I picked up one and I was like, I don't know how to do this anymore, I would be like, whoa, this is not who you usually are. And that would also trip me up because I'd be like, then who the hell am I? I don't know who I am anymore. And that's a terrifying mental space to be in my opinion.
That's you nailed it again. And that's what all these dads are going through, is this new version of themselves. Like
Yeah.
there is before loss and after loss.
Yeah.
Everything is just I described it as like the color just left from my life. Like
Yeah.
it was so draining and existing was exhausting. And I
Yeah.
don't care how tough you are. You hold your dead child in your arms and you will break. You will
Yeah.
become a world of pain, of hurt, of
Hmm.
uncertainty, and of darkness that is so vast and terrifying will open up in front of you. And you don't stay in that darkness forever. I think with proper professional mental health,
Yeah.
community support, all the stuff that we at Sad Dads Club are dedicated to providing, because we do the non-clinical stuff where we just facilitate spaces with dads who have similar lived experiences, both virtually and in person. We have retreats, we have Zoom sessions, we have a Discord channel, we have regional meetups, but then we also partner with therapists who specialize in child loss and grief. And we pay for up to 6 sessions right now per
Okay.
dad. And we want to remove not only the financial barrier to quality professional mental health services, but also the logistical barrier, because when you are in the wake of child loss, your executive functioning is non-existent.
Mm.
And you don't have the capacity, even if you have a great paying job with awesome insurance, the task of trying to get online and find a therapist who's in your network, who's taking new patients, who has actual experience treating somebody who has endured
Yeah.
child loss and is grieving. That's enough to have somebody be like, I'll do it later. I'll kick the
Hmm.
can down the road. And so the fact that we have these vetted therapists with whom we partner, we just get the dad right in there. They DocuSign 2 documents from us.
Yeah.
They get an email address to schedule with the therapist, and we are sure that they will be seen within no longer than a week. They'll have
Yeah.
their first session with that therapist. Because the moment that men that I've found in this, doing this work, like the moment they come and ask for help, like the clock has started,
Yeah.
and
You
they
got
are
to
just
get,
like, too much time passes. Like, actually forget it. Like I can deal with it on my own. I feel better today. And it's just like, grief is nonlinear. Healing is nonlinear. They're both long. And so making sure that we can do whatever is within our power that we have
yeah.
seen as our areas of impact to get these dads robust packages for healing, that's what we're aiming to do.
Yeah. Also, like, you don't know what work it took for that dad to get to the point to ask for help. Like,
Right.
so you cannot take that casually. You don't know how many weeks they spent saying, "Do I need help? Do I not need help? Do I not need help?" Da, da, da. And if they were able to get to the point in which they raised their hand and said, "Yes, I need help," you don't. I believe in energy and all that. I don't know if they'll
Yeah.
return to that headspace again. So not that you need to capitalize, but like, you need, if someone asks for help, you help them. Like that. It's just, I
Yeah.
just keep it that simple. If someone asks for help, you help, and
Absolutely.
do with what's within your power to help them. Do it, because you don't know what it took for them to ask for help.
And what has become another really incredible source of support within our community is the help that dads give and support that dads give to other dads who have a child after losing one.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these dads are, I mean, I'm a little bit on the older side. We do have a few dads who are older than I am, but for the most part, I'm a little on the older side. So these are younger dads for the most part, not entirely. We have a very broad age spectrum, but a lot of them who had lost a young child, whether it was a baby or infant through stillbirth or lost a child to SIDS, they want to continue to go on and expand their family. And
Yeah.
that subsequent pregnancy is terrifying. And then also having that child who now you see wouldn't be there were it not for having lost your other child. You're like, wait, am I replacing that child? Is there some love that's being reallocated and taken away from my
Yeah.
child who passed away? And
Yeah.
it's weird because this child wouldn't be here were it not for losing that one. And so it's a very complicated and delicate
Hmm.
and tense, I would even say, head and heart space to be in. But these dads, again, just I am anything that sounds like I am like boasting the effectiveness of this community is a result of all the dads who are not only showing up, but continuing to show up because they want to be the same source of support for
Yeah.
somebody the way that they received that same support when they walked through our our doors. And that you feel like you're totally alone and your head is spinning about these like crazy questions of like, wait, am I loving my child less because I have this new
Hmm.
one and this child actually wouldn't be here were it not for our losing their older brother or sister.
Yeah.
And it's complicated and it's hard. And this is like just kind of tip of the iceberg of things that these dads go through and the how much more complicated fatherhood becomes for them
Hmm.
because there's a constant hole in every picture that's taken. There are family members who are checking in less and less, loved ones who are more often as time goes forgetting the significant dates, whether birth date or death
Yeah.
date is the kind of preferred date to celebrate or to honor the child. And they now get everything they need here. And I
Hmm.
think it also lends to preserving relationships with loved ones because some family members can be wonderful and some just freeze because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And as we always say, it's like not knowing what to say is fine, but saying nothing is not okay.
Yeah.
But some people just can't go there
Yeah.
generationally, or maybe they have their own trauma that they can't do it. And so being able to get the support and the celebration and the honoring of the child that someone needs in Sad Dad's Club can
Yeah.
then allow them to go back to their parents or their siblings or their cousins and not hold that grudge of like, why can't you be
Hmm.
there
Yeah.
for me more? Why can't you
Yeah.
hold this space with me temporarily? I have to live in this pain and you can't
Yeah.
even for one moment. It's like that person just can't go there with you. And
Yeah.
that I think there's a lot of rage for a lot of the dads who are newer in the grief journey. And then
Hmm.
to hear from other ones, it's like, hey, man, like you're gonna get what you need here. And you can just kind of not let it go is the wrong thing, but you can sort of accept that they just can't go there with you. And to
Yeah.
continually expect from someone something that they can't give you is only going to leave you let down and
Hmm.
exhausted. And yes, the people that you love the most, you revere them the highest. That's the farthest fall that you have. And so when they let you down, it really, really hurts. But we do really want to have a space where they can get the support they need so that they can also preserve the other relationships in their life. Because again, I keep reiterating it, just like some people just can't go there. Like I have family members who have articulated specifically, like, it just is too hard for me.
Yeah.
Naturally, I want to be like, too hard for you?
What do you
What
think
do you
I'm
mean
dealing
too hard
with?
for you? Like,
Yeah.
well, I'm the one, like, but also like, okay, they were forthright. I shouldn't continue to expect something from someone that I can't get from them.
Correct.
What is that going to
Yeah.
do? And that's oversimplification and takes years of therapy and community support to get there. But like,
Yeah.
it makes me happier and it makes life a little easier for me. And I think that bestowing that upon or encouraging new dads to just be like, look, every people can be there when and where they can, and some people just can't meet you there at all, and that sucks. It really sucks.
It really sucks.
And with guys, like, too, my closest friends who are still I'm so lucky to have close friends. Like, everything in life that we endured, that we went through was celebratory and wonderful. It was being in
Mhm.
college together. It was growing up touring and playing music together. It was going to each other's weddings and, bachelor parties. And it
Yeah.
was all these milestones of joy. We hadn't been presented with something
Yeah.
so dramatic and difficult. And I know that we're veering from the dad context of all this, but just it's all wrapped into the relationships. And I mean, it's important to, as you are a dad, and as these dads go on to have living children, or they maybe already had living children before losing one, you want to preserve your family and get support where you also need it for your living children. And it sucks I can't be there for the child of yours who passed, but being a dad is hard no matter what. I'm very lucky. I have a living son who is 6 years old,
Mhm.
and he was like very much not a guarantee.
Yeah.
It was not easy for us to get pregnant with Lila, who again was carried to term, and then suddenly her heartbeat stopped at 38 weeks. But
Yeah.
we, after, were trying to fulfill the dream of expanding our family. That's something my wife and I connected on early on. We badly wanted to be parents. And when it was safe to start trying again, because Lila was delivered via C-section, it just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And we had to pursue IVF,
Mhm.
which is a whole journey in and of itself. And the infertility journey is one that is so not widely enough talked about in Sad Dads Club. It is. But we we had to have a very serious talk of like, what if it's just us? Like, is that
Mhm.
okay? We never imagined that, but ultimately said like, yes, it will be. And I know that IVF is not necessarily the last stop in fulfilling the dream of family expansion, but we were lucky to have viable embryos, and we picked a boy for the sole purpose of trying to make the pregnancy feel as different as it possibly could in a way that we could control, which there were no other factors. So we just
Yeah.
pick a boy. And yeah, like I marvel, like, I'm like, wow, you're here. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot believe that, because you're such a dream. You are such, in every true sense of the word, a miracle. You are so miraculous. You are so
Yeah.
incredible. And, my journey in fatherhood has been certainly not what I expected. And with him being diagnosed with autism and
Mhm.
having significant developmental delays and having special needs, and it's going to be a lifelong thing with him. But early on, when we suspected that, because he was missing a lot of milestones and there were just things that we had read about that looked like they was pointing to him being autistic. And I was like so mad. I
Yeah.
was so mad at first. And I said, like, out loud, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Mhm.
I had my daughter die, and now there's something wrong with my son. And in that moment, it was like a lightning bolt. It was like, no, no, no. There is nothing wrong with your son. He
Yeah.
might need some extra support in certain areas, but what child doesn't? And like,
Mhm.
you know what wrong is. This is not wrong. This is something that we're going to figure out, and we're going to be there however we can. And so, he has just blossomed when getting him into the right school and
Yeah.
getting him individualized early intervention and support has been transformational. He was not speaking when he started at his school at 4 years old. And he just turned 6 last month, and he has made up for lost time and not
That's
talking. The
great.
kid, he just doesn't clam up. And it was, there's still so many looming uncertainties, but he's
Yeah.
happy, he's healthy. And
Yeah.
I've still experienced no greater gift than being a father. Like, it's the only thing I have been certain of for the longest in my life that I've wanted to be, or I wanted
Yeah.
to do. Understanding that dynamic when I was much younger, and that I could be a father one day, it was like, oh, that I want
Yeah.
that I've just always wanted to be a dad. And so I am trying to find ways to make time move a little more slowly.
Mhm.
Not figured that one out yet, but every day is challenging and beautiful and fulfilling and wonderful.
Yeah. I can understand that frustration. Be like, I've already had a hard road. Like, I don't want, and we just did IVF. Like, I don't want, like, and then you have to deal with all the insecurities of like, like of infertility. Like, that's a ton to deal with also. So I think your expression of frustration of like, I don't want, like, I'll figure it out, but damn it, I don't want the road to look like this. I think it's a pretty valid thought that I bet a lot of men have felt before also.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I don't want to
Yeah. You
present as like, oh, like I have to find the positive in everything because am not here to preach
yeah,
toxic
yeah.
positivity. That's for
Yep,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
But I understand why I was frustrated. But I think a gift from Lila that is never ending has been a change in perspective about things that matter and things that are important and things that are difficult and things that are on the other side of that, which just are not. And I think that there was like this moment of frustration for things maybe being harder for me. I was like, whoa, it is my job to support him however he needs. And just because I didn't see it coming, just because it's going to be more challenging, it's going to be, who knows what it's going to be. It's the looming uncertainty that I felt most kind of intimidated by.
Yeah, of course.
It was like, no, I'm going to do whatever I have to do. And this is still fulfilling the dream for me. And
Yeah.
it's a gift to be, and there's so much stuff out there. And saying that somebody has autism is about as, similar to saying that they're a human being. There's just, it presents, and I have no mastery whatsoever. I have a foundational understanding at best, just trying to read every
Yeah.
book I can, both on how certain things can present and also just stories from parents as well as autistic adults who had grown up, and just to get a glimpse of kind of what my son is going through, our son is going through. And, but yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And I think all children teach us things, but especially just with how his mind works, it's so
Yeah.
clear that he's operating and accessing this thing that I wouldn't otherwise even be aware of or privy to, were it not for me having the gift of his perspective
Mhm.
and just his presence.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it sounds like your journey that you went on there it seems like you've been in a lot of spaces in which men don't normally have a voice or their perspective isn't focused on. Losing a child, most people don't talk to the dad. Infertility, most people don't talk to the dad. I mean, talking to any dad that's gone through IVF, they have their own version of loneliness that comes from going through IVF. And then the beauty of, oh my gosh, we do get pregnant. So, like, you've walked in a lot of spaces in which I don't think people usually tend to ask, hey, you're the father, you're the man in the situation. How do you feel about this? How are you interpreting this? So I do feel like your journey has brought you to a lot of moments in which you're sitting there and be like, hey, I have an opinion on this too. I would like to share it. I'm going to raise my hand and say it if that's cool with everyone. And then paying that love forward to other men as well is kind of what it seems like you've dedicated a lot of your mental space and life to now.
Yeah, I feel like it's my life's work. It's,
Yeah.
as I said, like I've never done anything more fulfilling in my life. And in Sad Dads Club, obviously we talk about the children who are not physically here, who have died, but we end up talking also about our living children and having a space for airing the challenges or
Yeah.
frustrations, or just articulating the complexities that come along with areas where we feel like inadequate or like we're not doing this right. And so it really is just an incredibly vulnerable and open
Yeah.
space for all of these dads. That is just, I see boundless good that it's done. And that's the total motivating factor behind it all. Is, and again, back to growing up with punk music and being in a Quaker community, just like, you want something done you don't see as being done, just like band together and do it, and then it's
Yeah.
done. And not to say that it's done as in we've like done it. Our work is ongoing and we will never be finished. But
Yeah.
now there is a space, both virtually and physically, all over the world for these dads who otherwise would have had nowhere to go. And it's just like, I am so impressed with these dads and just how often they keep showing up. And it shows
Yeah.
not only how much they need it, but how much they recognize somebody else needs it. And so they want to keep being there for the dad who is coming onto our Discord for the first time, or is coming
Yeah.
to a retreat and meeting people in real life for the first time, or is logging onto a Zoom for the first time. And we have no expectation that there's never any pressure to share. People should engage with the space however they feel most
Hmm.
comfortable in that moment. If they want to be camera off on Zoom, that's fine. We don't have an agenda for our retreats, not because we're trying to avoid structure or scheduling, but it's because we prioritize deepening the connections between the individuals and the community as a whole. And if you say, okay, well, right now we're sitting around the fire and everybody's going to share, one dad might not
Oh,
feel up to sharing, and that might ruin
yeah.
and make uncomfortable the whole experience for him. And so we've just found that letting people exist and meet wherever they are in a space where they know why they're there. They
Yeah.
know that they came to a retreat because they knew that it would be important for them to meet
Yeah.
more dads who are living through what they are living through and just deepen those connections with them. That has lent to a lot of dads opening up about what happened to their child for the first time. And it's not because there's got to be some research out there. And the more we try and like reach out to people who have done this type of work to see like, what is it about men in community and in a communal space where the lack of prompts will just kind of inspire them still to open up and to we had a dad share a story on Saturday morning. So we all get to the retreat house on late Friday afternoon and we check out on Sunday around noon. So by Saturday morning, we'd all had dinner together. You know, we'd spent the night together and we were just out sipping coffee out on a dock. It's this beautiful house in Maine. It's on the water. It's very secluded. And just 5 of us out there just talking about like, you know, the foliage. It looks awesome. Like, we're going to go swimming today. Are you going to hop on the paddleboard kayak? And a dad just starts going into the fact that his daughter was 8 months old and she was having trouble sleeping and her crib was super close to mom and dad's room. And he wanted to make sure that his wife could get more sleep because they were just exhausted with the sleep regression. And so he brought his daughter out and she was laying on his chest and they woke up and she had rolled over and suffocated. And it was just a terrible accident. And this dad had like never said that out loud to anybody. And we didn't say it was almost 2 years since he lost his daughter, and just the guilt and the shame that he felt. He knew just in this moment, for whatever reason, he could do it. He could say it. And he said, I'd never said that out loud to anybody.
Yeah.
Great friends who, you know, came over like, get that fucking couch out of my house. I never want to see it again. But he had never talked about it. And he told me at the end of the retreat, he's like, I knew this was going to be good for me. I didn't know how good it was going to be for me. And
that's good.
Grief needs a witness, and you need to be able to have people who can hear and who can hold that space with you. I know, I feel like such a cliche. Everybody's always talking about holding space. Like, what does that mean? But like, I
agree though, man. Yeah.
Like there is some actuality behind that like catchphrase. It really is meeting people at their lowest, most vulnerable, at least in the context of Sad Dads Club, and being like a source of support and light for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also by you starting this organization, leading the retreats and all that, by doing that, you're letting people know if they're around you. And if you've gone away for a weekend, you're there wanting to hear these stories. Like, you're not pushing for them. You're not prying for them. But like, if right now I was like, hey, here's how, if I had lost a child, I would know like, oh, this guy wants to hear it. And I think that's an element of this that like is very important, is being around people who you know are in that space because they want to hear your story. Like, you don't have to convince them. You don't have to sit there and be like, I lost a child. Let me tell you how that was, and be scared of the reaction to it. Like, if I was in your group, I'd lost a child, I would sit there being like, I don't know when I'm going to share, but I know when I feel ready to, and that's why they're here also.
That's exactly it. Being one of 3 co-founders, like, we had an idea for a community. It would be nothing were it not for the dads who are showing up and continually showing up. Like, that's what makes this work. So anytime somebody comes and it's like, it's amazing what you're doing, it's like, I'm not doing it. The dads are doing it. Like, that's community. That doesn't work if people aren't willing to be right there with you and put that work in and show up. And not only that, but keep showing up. And so this would not have gone anywhere. It would not become the incredibly profound resource for healing for bereaved fathers that it is, were it not for all these dads showing up and continuing to show up for one another. And I just I'm so humbled by, that's like the greatest source of inspiration and motivation is I'm like, okay, we've reached over 10,000 dads since the time we started in March of 2022, but there's so many more out there that we haven't reached yet. How do we make sure they know about this? How do we make sure that we are articulating how incredibly like welcoming, inclusive, warm, and supportive and validating the space is? And so that's why our work will never be done, but it'd be a much bigger deal if I were bored than were I continually overwhelmed and behind, which I am. But
that's right.
All for a good reason.
I think that's just being an adult, is this constant feeling of like, oh, what did I forget to do? I know there's something I forgot to do. I think this is called low-grade anxiety, but also feel like it's called reality. So
very, very, very real. Yes.
So how I end every episode is ask every guest a series of 5 questions. And then after that, I'll give you a moment to be like, hey, what's Sad Dad's website, Instagram, and all that? So moment for self-promotion. So first question is, is, did you have any backup names for your kids? Like, did you almost name Lila something else or your son something else?
No.
Really? Okay.
Those are Jacob for Dallas, but my middle name is Dallas. My mother's
Oh,
maiden
okay.
name is Dallas. And then we were like, what? Whoa. No, Dallas for sure. Lila, I don't remember any other name other than Lila.
Yeah.
And my wife came up with it and presented it. And it was just, I think it's such a beautiful name. I think it looks beautiful. I think it sounds beautiful. It's Hebrew for night. And yeah, no other name for Lila, but we were tossing around Jacob but then wanted to keep with like a family name. And so.
Yeah. And then you're like, well, we've already got it as Dallas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Next question. Do you have a favorite TV or movie dad?
TV or movie dad?
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be Clark Griswold from the National Lampoon's franchise.
Yeah, man. Yep.
He's Chevy Chase. I mean, what a brilliant, just like, yeah, hilarious. And that's got to be my favorite dad. Close second might be Jason Bateman in Ozark, and I can't even remember his character's name. But
I can't either.
Yeah,
Marty.
Marty something or other.
God.
Very, very different dads, both in line of work and
yes,
presentation and pretty much every
detail. But that's probably a good realization of your personality. If you know how to be lighthearted and fun, but damn, there's some darkness.
Yeah, truly. The spectrum is real.
That's awesome. Next question. You might not have one. Do you have a go-to replacement curse word, or do you just curse around your kids?
That's a really good one. I try not to. I don't have a replacement curse word, and I try not to curse around him. It works out sometimes, others not so much.
Yeah.
But no like fudge or I guess I say shiitake actually quite a bit.
Like mushroom?
Like the mushroom instead of shit. And because I'm still getting to say it, it's just an elongated version thereof.
That's I personally like the flow of son of a and then whatever is in the room, because I feel like my brain is like, hey, you said 75% of the phrase, like you're almost there, but then you don't, and then you pull out at the last second. So
what
that's
is it
my
about
go-to.
curse words that is just so fulfilling and like effective in our?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. A lot of life is figuring out how to express yourself accurately, and sometimes the words you shouldn't be saying that loudly, but you do. So who knows?
Truly, spot on.
Next question. What's one of your favorite things to do with your son? Like, what's some of your favorite activities that you do with him?
Going to the beach and playing in the waves. He is such a beach creature, which we're thrilled about because our family is very, very big on going to the beach in the summer. And again, I live in Maine, so we really soak up those Maine summer days.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just loving, like, getting tossed around in waves. And I remember loving that too. And so just being on the beach with him, running around, playing tag and playing in the water. And I taught him how to boogie board this summer, which he was loving. So those are super special moments.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then last question is there like any moments of your kid's life that you're most excited to be a part of, or any aspect of life you're excited to see him like enter into as he gets older?
I try so hard not to look too much into the future because I'm trying to be more mindful of the present. And I look at him, as I mentioned, and every day I'm like, wow, it's going by already so quickly. And all of a sudden I look over and sometimes see this little boy instead of this baby, instead of this toddler.
Yeah.
And I can't even, I never really look ahead.
Okay.
I'm just so excited for each day and each moment. Yesterday we carved a pumpkin for the first time. So it was these moments will present. I just have to be there ready and to embrace and accept them. And so it's like I let the world bring to me what is going to be the next wonderful moment. And I don't think too hard about it. And maybe, I don't know, that's such an interesting question because I do look forward to a lot of things in life. But when it comes to Dallas and milestones, I don't think about them.
Yeah.
Because every day is truly a gift, as cliche as that sounds. But if anybody wants to challenge me on it, I'll gladly speak at length and defend that dissertation.
That's fair. Then I'll give you this. This is one of my favorite like backup or extra questions to ask. What's your least favorite kids show or movie? Like, what's the movie whenever Dallas wants to watch it, you're just like, this is awful. I need to I'm going to leave the room or anything like that. Does he have any shows like that?
There was all this like weird shit happening on YouTube with like these
YouTube
families.
scares me. YouTube
And so
scares me.
we have gotten rid of that. So now, he's on to like, he's got Curious George. He watched the
Nice.
Cars franchise. Like I used to watch Curious George. I think Cars is endlessly entertaining.
Yep.
So is it like what I would be watching? No, but it's very digestible, bearable. I can engage in it with him.
Yes.
It was a little dangerous there with the YouTube stuff. And that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
But I was like, is this the same thing as my parents being like, why are you watching Ren and Stimpy? This is disgusting. Maybe a little bit, but YouTube is just still on another level. And so we have removed that entirely, which wasn't that hard. Luckily, he was not into it at first, but then just understood that's a new rule. Like we just don't watch YouTube.
I mean, that's a common answer. Is people are like, I feel like my kids watch stuff on YouTube where I walk in the room and I'm like, what is this? Like, cause it's like, what do you do? Like, what is this show? Where are you like, I don't understand what's happening here, but I need to regulate where you're watching a little bit better.
Like Ryan's World was one of them. And, I can only remember the kid's name and the other one, but just, it wasn't nice. Like they're not doing nice and kind things, and they're speaking in ways to one another, and they're whining a lot. And it was creating this, like, it was a cesspool of shit on their YouTube. That's what I'll say about that.
It can be.
Yeah.
And then last thing, just moment for self-promotion. So if we want to find out more about Sad Dads Club, events you've got coming up, all that good stuff.
Sad Dads Club provides grief support for bereaved fathers, both non-clinical and professional. You can find us online at our website, saddadsclub.org, on Instagram, which is our most used social media platform. We're at sad.dads.club. We got a retreat coming up this weekend. We got a regional event in New England where we're all going to a BU hockey game. We're going to be gathering in New York City for just like a regional event. And then we have a Discord that's active 24/7. So if you or anyone you know would need this resource, please don't hesitate to reach out. I always get back to people nearly instantly and just make sure they have a list of the resources that we have and make sure to get them plugged into that Discord as soon as possible, because that really is the lifeline for our community. And just know that you're not alone, because we got a whole community of dads who are ready, eager, and waiting to help support you through something that is just too heavy and awful to navigate alone.
Yeah. And just once again, thanks for reaching out to want to do an episode. A lot of the energy or whatever of this podcast is just trying to figure out how to let dads know that their mental space is okay to discuss, their mental space is okay to acknowledge, and that like people care. And I think, especially the world you live in, that's a massive area where it's like your mental space here matters, what you've gone through matters, and you need a space to be able to discuss it. So thank you for giving me the chance to promote it, learn about it, and talk about it, because I think what you're doing is something that easily falls by the wayside, and I don't think it should in any way.
Well, thank you, Devin, for letting me flap my gums a bit on here, and just for doing what you do to make a space where dads can really be vulnerable and talk about the real things that are challenging in life and that are going on. Because again, I think eliminating alienation goes a long way, and you're certainly doing the hard work to make sure that that is being accomplished. So thank you very much.
Of course. Thanks for hanging out with me for a bit, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Devin.
Cool. Thanks. See you, man.
Thank you so much for listening to the episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Imperfect Dads Podcast. And make sure to give us 5 stars wherever you listen to us. Music, editing, and production is all done by me. Make sure to tune in on Mondays and most Thursdays for new episodes. This podcast is part of the Never Effaced Network. Make sure to go to nevereffacednetwork.com to learn more about them.